Greetings and welcome to the energy of Scorpio. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. Tarot of the Twin Sun is a functional division within the order of the Twin Sun. Please take only what you will. This shall be a reading for the energy of Taurus, in which Scorpio, in which the activation of the axis of Scorpio traverses to the opposition of Taurus, the descendant of Taurus, Scorpio is Taurus. And so with this, there's an ability to see them through the lens, okay? The lens which is rarefied and activating a sort of connection here that has to do with stubborn energies that through your actions are producing an effective transformation for yourself as well as for them, to shake off the sort of rigidity of Taurus as well as Scorpio, the fixed axis, okay? And as this occurs, there's an ability for you to see them as someone who would actively activate or catalyze the need for devotion and the practice of devotion through a commitment to the self, but also to the inner student. And what can be learned through this is a type of mastery when it comes to faith or devotion, okay? Around realities or around contracts, around the element of work and stamina within the guise of Taurus. We'll begin firstly with a small karmic reading and then move into the Great Mirror. Okay, so there's something that that deals with your empowerment, okay, and your stability. The funny thing is that this stability is related to a dormant energy, a hidden energy, suppressed energy that is emotionally informed. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is the ability for you to find fertility within dry landscapes, okay? And in this, there's a way for you to balance out accounts from the past to your current state, okay? That's a Six of Pentacles. So Mercury is strongly indicated here, Scorpio is strongly indicated here. There's an ability also to sort of traverse back in time by looking at what love is, by looking at what that is, which is possibly for you, the ability to equally give from one relationship or another, treating it as a sort of solid unit as opposed to something that you had to translate in terms of value. How do you value your own emotional content or your time or your energy, your resources to others is the question here. And the challenge has been met, but it has to do with a lot of looking back in order to find something deep in terms of the motivations of yourself, especially in the motivations of trying to find something meaningful within it all. The near future, I see here the Ten of Cups as well as the Two of Spades or Swords, okay? With this, there's an ability to find a center point, okay? This has to do with your work as well as your family, any commitments that you feel would endear you to finding some sort of realization in the material world and also on this earth. There is something here also about finding the information that you would seek by not only looking into the whole of a family unit or a commitment or your work. You have to cut it into two and to see the difference in isolation between opposing parties, okay? I'm seeing here also the ability to not really choose when it comes to your voice in the future. There's something about you silent in this having, in which two or more parties essentially will come to the sort of center point, okay? That has to do with you know, fair play when it comes to how both of you are contributing to the same commitment or the same project. But at the same time, there's something about it where Both of you have to respect each other's paths of isolation, isolated paths that do not cross, okay? But they could. This is when two roads become one, okay? And in this, there's something about it where you're being informed by mostly eclipse energy, essentially a way to find the truth, okay? A truth that is not spoken, a truth that is not heard. And that is as esoteric as I'm going to get in terms of this particular reading. We shall move on now into the Great Mirror. The Great Mirror is a tool devised by the Order of the Twin Sun in order to see apparent karmas that may exist in a timeless way between two energies, that being Scorpios and another's, significant others, okay? Okay, so this is interesting. I think that for this month, there it is again, there's a need to respect the path. And the path itself is not something to be respected by the norms and the clauses and the rules and regulations of everyday society. It's as if there needs to be faith in the path as opposed to where it's going. There also is the theme of finding some sort of calling, okay? When it comes to this, it could be that your gift towards inheritance, okay, I'm talking about what is owed in a generational way, is to find the Seven of Pentacles. Now, the Seven of Pentacles, essentially, it stems from the five with the addition of the two, at least in this reading, okay? Meaning that there is a way or a path that is inevitable, that needs to be walked in order to find resourcefulness, or at least to plant the seed. It doesn't mean that the seed will blossom. It means that there has to be a great deal of faith on this path in order for there to be what? Meaning, or some sort of greater connection. You're dealing here with someone who gives you inspiration in a way through the tension and the conflict they bring. It's as if you are consciously bringing water to them in a way that is designed to quench the passion, okay? To put out the fire, okay? As this, you are essentially being inspired also to partition in a way anything that would be ridiculously sort of what do you call it? No one's going to trespass in your territory. No one from your past is going to alter this sort of relationship, meaning that you're going against and you're standing your ground in order to confront anything that would seem, you know, either intense or in your face, and you're doing this by yourself. It's through some sort of compassionate order or compassionate protocol. What else do I see? I see here the Ten of Cups in reverse in relation to the Devil card. Okay, so there is something about this type of situation that has to do with you being on all sides confronted with a need to protect your own territory. You do this in one way by dealing with this energy to move to them in order so that the fire doesn't spread, okay? This has to do with, in a way, controlled fire, a controlled way of controlling a forest fire or some sort of natural disaster, okay? And perhaps this is something that you don't want to commit to. Perhaps this is something that needs to be liberated in some sort of way, all the limitations and boundaries, okay? And perhaps there's also something about you that would rather not have to deal with anything too deep, or perhaps it has to do with anything that is not conditional in terms of the flow of what real love should be, okay? I guess the question here is, what is that for you? Is there a way for you to trust in the process and to essentially let the currents flow as they will? And I think that's what's happening, because you're dealing here with someone that has the Saturnian energy but is influenced by Uranus mostly. And as this occurs, there's an ability for an extreme rebellion against what is normal, in terms of what is normal, in terms of how to label or structurally classify what kind of relationship you would have. Okay, if this is business, then there is something about it that is forward moving and independent in nature. And not only that, it has to do with secret resources in which someone can contribute to, essentially what you have in terms of inheritance or in terms of property. Okay, there also is something about this, a deep sadness in both of you that needs to be magically cured in some sort of way. There needs to be sort of a bridge of communication that has to do with rebellious undertones of Uranus and Saturn being able to shake up structures, and so that fundamentally you can see what is elementally sound within the construction of anything that would have to do with social interaction or commitments or regular relationships. Okay, so the idea here is to learn through a processing of great shadow. Okay, depression, or perhaps something even deeper in which you could find the strength to move from the 5th to the 10th house. The 5 and the 10 are very strong in this reading. Usually the difference leads to even more isolation. It leads to independent paths in which both of you are walking a similar path, or two roads converge into one, as I've mentioned in a previous reading. So all that there, the honor is in essentially ways you can walk with this person, go through the processing, and through some form of emotional clarity, see the dark side and essentially rise up in some sort of way. It can go two ways, one of two ways, either the magician of the light or the magician of the dark. But deep down inside, there is this alchemical figurehead that is the magician, that can transform the energy of fire or water or dark and light and convert it, vice versa. So it's sort of a double-edged sword having this type of energy on the soul level of this reading. The advice is to essentially break free from the constraints when it comes to the growth of the mind. The mind needs to break free, and also it needs to understand some of the more emotional traumas from the past, especially on your end, okay? And to partition that, to create a moat, to create some sort of preventative measure so that your land isn't encroached upon, that is not corrupted. So I see here also an ability to let fallow fields lie, meaning that there's something about the ability for natural alkalis or natural sort of acids to refertilize and to reinvigorate and to sort of change the pH within the earth, and that makes for fertility, but that requires a great deal of time, and for people not to plant in it, or for it not to be sort of sown. Okay, that's what I see. Okay, bye bye.